Dad laughed. You still broke after college? Then froze when the bank manager called me. Our newest partner. For a second, everything in the room went out of focus except my dad's face. He still had his mouth half open from the joke, one hand waving toward me like I was the punchline, and I could actually see the moment his brain caught up. His eyes flicked from the manager's extended hand to the plaque on the wall with my name on it, then back to me. The smile didn't just fade, it died. His cheeks went a little gray under the stubble, and his laugh turned into this weird little cough. I felt my ears burn, my palms suddenly too sweaty against the folder I was holding. The manager, Luis, just kept smiling, oblivious to the tension, pumping my hand and clapping my shoulder like this was some heartwarming family movie scene instead of the emotional equivalent of a car crash. It was last Friday, around 3:30 p.m. And my dad had asked me to come help yell at the bank, because his mortgage payment went up. That's literally how he phrased it. You're good with numbers, son. You went to college for that money crap. Come down here and make sure they're not screwing me. I'd said yes because that's what I always do, even though the bank he wanted to yell at was my bank. The bank where I've worked myself half to death for almost a decade. The bank where, as of 3 weeks ago, I'm technically one of the owners. Let me back up a bit, because from the outside it probably sounds like some straight-to-streaming cheesy drama. My life has felt more like a slow, bleak indie movie most days, but apparently we're doing plot twists now. I'm 32. First person in my family to graduate college. I grew up in a very we have money until Thursday and then we pray kind of house. My dad is old school working class. Construction, then warehouse work when his knees gave out, the kind of guy who measures worth in hours worked and how dirty your hands are at the end of the day. My mom works part-time at a supermarket bakery and does absolutely everything else in the world. We weren't dirt poor, there was always food, the lights were always on, but there was never any extra. Christmas was one big thing, one small thing. Birthdays would take out pizza if bills weren't due that week. The phrase I heard the most growing up was, "We can't afford that." I was the smart one, apparently. My older brother went straight into HVAC after high school, my little sister had a baby at 19. I was the kid who brought home honor roll certificates and read library books for fun. Everyone, especially my mom, put this weird silent pressure on me like I was the family lottery ticket. "You're gonna do big things, huh?" my dad would say, ruffling my hair. "Just don't forget us when you're rich." Except when it came time to actually pay for the thing that was supposed to make me rich, the tune changed. College is a scam. My dad said when I got my acceptance letter to state, "You'll come out the other side broke and begging. You think they're handing out money just 'cause you're smart? You'll be in debt until you die. You should go learn a trade instead. At least then you'll know how to do something useful." I still went. I took out loans, got a couple of small scholarships, worked every shitty campus job available. My mom slipped me $20s sometimes, for groceries, and then told my dad it was for gas, like I was sneaking out to see another boyfriend and college was the affair. My dad's favorite joke, from freshman year onward, became some variation of, "You still broke after college?" First time he said it, I was home for Thanksgiving, bone-tired from midterms and a 30-hour-a-week work-study job at the library circulation desk. I'd left my wallet on the kitchen counter, and he'd picked it up, flipped it open, saw the 2 lonely singles inside and laughed. "Oh, big man with the big brain," he said, waving the bills. "You still broke after college?" I wasn't even in college yet? But it stuck. Home for summer, working double shifts at the diner to cover next semester's books. "You still broke after college?" Calling to ask if he could co-sign a small emergency loan when my car died junior year. "You still broke after college?" Followed by a 10-minute rant about how I should have gone into plumbing like my cousin Joey. Even after I graduated, early, with honors degree in finance, it didn't stop. I moved back home for 6 months because entry-level jobs in my field paid peanuts, and I was trying not to drown under loan payments. Every day when I came home in my shirt and tie from the bank teller job I worked my way into, he'd smirk and say, "How's it feel to be broke after college?" I laughed it off. I always laugh it off. It's easier than saying, "It feels like you're disappointed in me no matter what I do." That's the messed up thing. I love my dad. He's not a cartoon villain. He took me fishing, showed up to my crappy high school band concerts, worked nights so we could have health insurance. But he also has this bitter edge to him that got sharper as I got older, like my existence is a reminder of everything he didn't get to do. And he uses jokes like little knives. Anyway, I started at the bank I work at now as a teller. Just numbers and deposits, and trying to smile at people who yelled at me about overdraft fees I didn't personally invent. I did that for a year, then moved into back office work, then into commercial loans. I studied my ass off for certifications after hours. I networked with people who use value add as a verb unironically. I said yes to every horrible project that no one else wanted. Dad's reaction to any good news was muted, let's say. "Hey, Dad, I got promoted to analyst." "Cool. Does that mean you can finally start paying off those loans?" "Hey, Dad, I'm getting a raise." "Wow, so you're only broke most of the time now, huh?" He'd say it with a grin, punch my shoulder like we were buddies. If I ever said, "That kind of stings," he'd roll his eyes and tell me I'm too sensitive. Somewhere along the line, I stopped telling him about stuff. When I passed my licensing exam, something I'd studied for while working 60-hour weeks, I told my coworkers, my girlfriend at the time, my group chat. I told my parents, eventually. In a text. His response? "Nice. Maybe now you can afford to buy your old man a truck." Fast forward a few years. I changed departments again, moved into a small team that handles business lending and portfolio management. It's a regional bank, not Wall Street, but it's solid, and the partners, yes, we have partners. It's weird, not a law firm but similar structure, actually give a shit about the community. They noticed I was one of the only people who could explain complex terms to normal clients without making their eyes glaze over, so I got pulled into more meetings, more pitches. Last year, one of the older partners announced he'd be retiring. I was in the room when they discussed succession, and my name came up. I honestly thought I misheard at first. "Alex has been here 8 years, my boss said. Our retention rate with his clients is insane. He knows the local businesses. He's young, but he's exactly the kind of person we want shaping this place long term." I sat there, pretending to take notes while my heart tried to wrestle its way out of my ribcage. The conversations went on for months. Performance reviews, meetings with HR, a ridiculous psych evaluation that made me feel like I was applying to be Batman, not a bank partner. Finally, 3 weeks ago, I sat in a boardroom with terrifyingly expensive chairs and signed a stack of papers that officially made me junior partner, commercial lending. I make more money now than my parents ever have, combined. I also work so much I sometimes forget what my kitchen looks like in daylight, but that's another issue. I didn't tell my dad. Part of it was superstition, like if I said it out loud too much it would vanish. The bigger part was, I didn't want to see that smirk again. I didn't want my big achievement to be swallowed by another. "Oh, so you're not broke after college anymore, huh?" Followed by a joke about investing in his hypothetical truck. Mom knew something was up. She notices when my anxiety shifts flavor, but I kept it vague. "Work's going well. Busy." She just did that little hum she does when she wants to pry and doesn't. Then last week, Dad called me. "You busy on Friday?" he asked. "No hello?" I could hear the TV in the background, some game show blaring. "I'm at work, Dad," I said, glancing at my calendar. "Like every Friday." He snorted. Yeah, counting money. Listen, the bank jacked up my mortgage again. Bunch of crooks." I got a meeting with some manager on Friday to review my options. I'd feel better if you were there to make sure they don't talk circles around me. he said, manager. Like it was a government official, not a guy I have coffee with in the break room. Which bank? I asked, already knowing the answer. The one with your logo on it, he said. You know, the ones that can't do anything about their fees. He did air quotes. I could hear them. I leaned back in my chair, rolling a pen between my fingers. Technically, there's a conflict of interest protocol for staff handling relatives' loans. Practically, I knew I wouldn't be the one making any decisions in that meeting. They'd assigned Luis, our branch/retail manager, to handle it. He knows my dad is my dad, because small town plus last name plus my mom oversharing. I'm swamped, I started to say automatically. There was a pause. Okay, my dad said flat. Forget I asked? Guilt is my mother tongue. What time? I sighed. 3:30, he said, instantly brighter, like he knew he'd won. Good, you can explain all the fancy words for me. I hate when these people talk like I'm stupid. The irony of that nearly made me choke. So that's how I ended up sitting in one of the consultation rooms at my bank on Friday afternoon, across from my father in his only nice collared shirt, watching him bounce his knee up and down like he was about to sit a test. If you've never been in a small-town bank branch, they all look the same. Beige walls, framed photos of local landmarks, fake plants that always lean slightly to one side. The air smells like paper and printer toner, and whatever air freshener the morning teller is into. It was quiet, that weird quiet where you can hear phones ringing faintly behind closed doors. How much you think they're screwing me? Dad asked, flipping through his mortgage statement with more force than necessary. Interest, fees, insurance, they sneak in, bloody thieves. They're not trying to screw you, I said. Rates went up. That's just how it works. We're actually one of the slower ones to raise them. He made a face. Oh, listen to you. We forgot you joined the dark side. He said it jokingly, but there was that little sour twist to it. Like my job was a betrayal. I opened my mouth to remind him that the dark side helped refinance his house 2 years ago when he was behind on payments, but I let it go. I've learned to pick my battles, and this was not the moment. Instead, I tried to walk him through the numbers. Showed him what changing the term, or switching to a fixed rate, would do to his monthly payments. He listened for about 30 seconds, and then waved me off. Save the lecture for your clients, Professor, he said. I'll wait for the manager. They're the ones with the power. That stung more than I expected. I am the one with the power, at least partially now, but the habit of not being seen as that person by him is deep. Just then, there was a knock on the doorframe. Louise stepped in, big friendly smile in place, tie slightly loosened because that's his thing. Approachable professionalism. Afternoon, gentlemen, he said. Mr. Carter, good to see you again. Dad stood to shake his hand. You too, he said. I brought my kid along so you don't confuse me with all your fancy talk. He jerked a thumb toward me. He went to college for this crap. Still broke though. He laughed. Loud. I wanted the carpet to open up and swallow me. Louise glanced at me, eyebrows flicking up for a microsecond. We talked about keeping my new title Loki until the internal memo went out, but staff already knew. The plaque with my name had been delivered early and installed behind the glass wall last week. Actually, Louise said, turning back to me with that polished warmth he uses in big meetings. We're very lucky to have him here today. Yeah, Dad said, dropping into his chair. Maybe you'll pay him enough someday he can afford a decent car. My face felt hot. I could feel the pulse in my neck. My car is fine, by the way. It's not new, but it's paid off and reliable. I bought it myself. The comment wasn't even about the car. It never is. Louise gave my dad a polite chuckle, then turned to me fully. Well, we're working on that, he said. We were just saying in the staff meeting this morning, we're lucky to have our newest partner in the room. Silence. It was like someone hit pause on my father. His jaw literally stopped mid-chew. He'd popped a mint right before Luis walked in. His hand froze halfway to his pocket. His eyes darted from Luis to me, to the glass wall where, if he turned his head just right, he could see the reflection of the etched metal plaque that read, Alex Carter, Junior Partner, Commercial Lending. He turned his head. Slowly. Like it hurt. I watched his eyes land on the plaque, squint as he read it, widen, then snap back to me. You're what? He said, voice weirdly flat. I swallowed. Yeah? I made partner. A few weeks ago. It was the first time I'd said it to him out loud. My mouth felt dry. Luis, bless him, kept talking, oblivious. We're really excited, he said to my dad. Alex has been instrumental in growing our business lending. We thought it was time to bring him into the partnership. Your son's a big part of this bank's future. He meant it as a compliment. To me, to my dad, to the American dream, or whatever. Dad just stared at me. For a second, I saw pure, unfiltered shock on his face. No jokes, no mask. Then something like pride? Fear? Resentment? It flickered so fast I couldn't catch it. He cleared his throat, sat back, and forced his mouth into a tight smile. Well, I'll be damned, he said. Look at you. But the words didn't sound warm. They sounded like he'd bitten into a lemon. The rest of the meeting was a blur. I sat there as Luis went through my dad's options, running numbers on the screen, talking in his patient, gentle tone. Every now and then he'd defer to me. Alex, you want to explain the difference between these terms? And I'd answer automatically, the same way I do with any client. On the outside, I'm sure I looked calm. Inside, I felt like my organs had been rearranged. I could feel my dad's eyes on me the whole time. Not just looking at me, but assessing me, like he was seeing me as an actual adult for the first time. It didn't feel good. It felt like being under a microscope. When we finished and shook hands, Luis clapped me on the back again. Congrats again, man, he said. Drinks next week? Yeah, I managed. Sure. Dad was quiet as we walked out through the lobby. The tellers nodded at me. See you Monday, Alex, and one of the newer analysts waved. I could feel Dad taking it all in, the way staff spoke to me, the way I carried myself here, the fact that my name was literally on the wall. We stepped out into the parking lot. It was cold, that damp late winter kind of cold where the wind somehow finds any exposed skin and bites. I zipped my coat up. Dad didn't move for a second. He just stood there, staring at the bank building. You didn't tell me, he said finally. I was going to. I lied automatically, then sighed. Okay, I wasn't. Not yet. Why the hell not? He asked, still looking at the building, not me. I shoved my hands into my pockets, feeling the crinkle of the little congratulatory card my team had given me weeks ago, still there because I'm sentimental like that. I don't know, I said. I guess I didn't feel like you'd care. He flinched at that, like I'd actually slapped him. Of course I'd care, he said. You're my son. You call me broke every time you talk about my degree, I said before I could stop myself. My voice came out sharper than I intended. You make jokes about how I joined the dark side whenever I mention work. You told everyone at Thanksgiving last year I'll probably be paying off college until I'm 80. Why would I assume you'd be happy about my bank promotion? He finally turned to look at me, eyebrows knitting. Those are jokes, he said. You know I'm kidding. I laughed. It came out short and ugly. Do I? We stood there between rows of cars, breath puffing in little white clouds, the bank's automatic doors sliding open and closed behind us with a soft whoosh every time a customer left. I work 7 days a week so you could go to that school, he said, jabbing his finger toward the ground, like the college was somewhere under the asphalt. So you didn't have to break your back like me. And now you're big man partner, and you think I don't care? I know you worked hard, I said quietly. I'm grateful. I really am. But you didn't work so I could go to college. You worked because that's what you do. And I still had to take out a ton of loans and work jobs on top of it. It wasn't like you just handed me a golden ticket. He bristled. So now I'm the bad guy. I'm not saying you're the bad guy, I said. I'm saying it hurt. It hurts when the first thing out of your mouth, every time, is some joke about me being broke or my degree being useless. Even today, the second we sat down, you had to tell the manager I'm still broke after college. You know how that feels? He was just some suit, Dad said. I was breaking the ice. He's my colleague. I snapped. He's the one who advocated for me to make partner. You basically told him I'm a failure walking into the meeting. Dad's nostrils flared. That's his tell when he's about to either explode or shut down. I watched the battle in his eyes. Finally, he blew out a breath. You're too damn sensitive, he muttered, but there was less heat behind it than usual. Maybe, I said. Or maybe you're just mean sometimes and call it humor. We stared at each other. My heart was pounding, but there was also this weird sense of permission. Like once the words were out, I couldn't shove them back in, and something in me didn't want to. He looked away first. So how much you make now? He asked abruptly. Seriously? I said. What? He asked, shrugging. If your partner now must be rolling in it. Maybe you're not broke after college anymore. He tried to grin. It came out wobbly. I just stared at him. Do you hear yourself? He rubbed the back of his neck. Look, I don't know how to talk about this shit, okay? He blurted. When I was your age, I was busting my ass on rooftops. My old man never said I'm proud of you. He just told me when I screwed up and expected me to do better. That's how I learned. Yeah, I said quietly. I noticed. He flinched again. Another little cut. We stood there in the cold for what felt like a full minute, either of us moving. Cars pulled in and out around us. Somewhere a dog barked. I am proud of you, he said suddenly, like the words physically hurt on the way out. He kept his eyes on the ground. It scares me, okay? Scares you? I repeated. Yeah, he said, finally looking up. You being up there with the suits. All that responsibility. People with power, they're the ones who screw guys like me. I spent my whole life getting jerked around by men in offices, telling me tough luck while they wore watches worth more than my truck. Seeing my kid on that side of the desk. He shook his head. It's weird. That's not what we do, I said instinctively, then stopped. Because sometimes, it is. Not intentionally, but the system isn't exactly friendly to guys like my dad. He must have seen the hesitation. Exactly, he said. So I make my little jokes about you being broke, because at least then, you're still, you. Not some guy who forgot where he came from. My chest hurt. Not in the clutching my heart movie way, it was more like a tight band around my ribs. You think being successful means forgetting you, I said. It wasn't really a question. He shrugged, but his eyes were shiny in a way I only see when he talks about his own father. Everybody who leaves forgets sooner or later. I didn't leave, I said. I moved 20 minutes away. I come by every week. I help with your paperwork. I fixed your roof last summer. What else am I supposed to do to prove I didn't forget you? He opened his mouth, then shut it again. I don't know, he said hoarsely. When you talk about your job, all I hear is how I didn't do enough. That I was stupid with money, that I trapped us in this cycle. I hear your fancy words and I feel like the idiot in the room again. I stared at him. It was like seeing a blueprint overlay on top of the man I thought I knew, all the reasons behind the digs, the barbs. Fear. Shame. Insecurity. I never said that. I said. You didn't have to. He said. Look where you are and where I am. He gestured broadly, encompassing his aging truck, the peeling bank parking lines, his mortgage file clutched in his hand. Your partner. I'm begging them for a lower payment so I don't have to drive Uber on weekends. We were quiet again. The wind picked up, making my eyes water. I don't think you're an idiot, I said finally. I think you worked your ass off in a system that's built to keep people like you from getting ahead. I went the only route I saw out, school. And yeah, I'm in a different place now. But it doesn't erase what you did. He grunted. Sounds like something off those podcasts you listen to, he said, but there wasn't much bite to it. I could have left it there. Accept the half apology, slap a metaphorical band-aid on it, go get a beer and never talk about it again. That's our family brand. But standing there, feeling the ghost of those words, you still broke after college? Echo in my head, I realized I didn't want to keep carrying them quietly. So here's the thing, I said, my voice shaking just a little. You don't get to dump your insecurity on me as jokes anymore. I get that you're scared, I get that you feel left behind. But I busted my ass to get where I am. And I'm not going to pretend it's nothing just so you don't feel weird. He stared at me, lips pressed together. I paid my dues too, I went on. I've lived on instant noodles. I've cried in bathroom stalls because a client tore into me and I couldn't afford to lose the account. I've skipped dinners with friends to study. I've gone without because I was helping you and Mom with bills. And every time I tried to share a win with you, you turned it into a punchline. His shoulders slumped a little. He looked suddenly smaller, like the years were pressing down on him all at once. I never meant. He stopped, started again. I didn't mean to make you feel like that. But you did, I said. Intentions don't erase impact. He laughed once, humorless. Now you sound like one of those motivational posters. I smiled a bit despite myself. Yeah, sorry. Occupational hazard. We stood there in another long silence. So what now? He asked, eventually. Now, I exhaled. Now I go back inside and finish my workday. You go home. We both think about this. And maybe, next time we talk about my job, you try saying I'm proud of you instead of you still broke after college? He grimaced, like I'd asked him to eat raw broccoli. You really need to hear that, he said. Not mocking, genuinely curious. Yeah, I said. I do. He looked at me for a long time. Then, very quietly, so quiet I almost missed it over the sound of a truck reversing near us, he said. I'm proud of you. I blinked. Say it again, I said, half joking, half not. He rolled his eyes, but his mouth twitched. Don't push it, he said. Then, after a beat, I'm proud of you, okay? You did good. Better than I did. That scares me. But you did good. My eyes stung in that sudden, embarrassing way. I looked up at the sky so they wouldn't spill over. The clouds were that flat, oppressive gray that makes you feel like time isn't real. Thanks, I said, because I didn't know what else to say without ugly crying in the bank parking lot. He cleared his throat. So, partner, he said, stressing the word in a different way now, you think this new mortgage deal is all right? I huffed a laugh. Yeah, I said. Considering your credit score, your age, and interest rates, it's about as good as you're going to get. Don't miss payments. Don't take out any new loans. Maybe cut down on the DoorDash. He smirked. Oh, listen to Mr. Responsibility, he said, but softer. Maybe you are good at this crap. We both knew it was, in its own warped dialect, another olive branch. He drove me back to my apartment because I'd walked from the office that morning. The car ride was awkward at first. The radio filled the silence, some classic rock station playing songs he could name in 3 chords. So, partner, huh? He said again after a while. That mean you own the building now? That's not how it works, I said, laughing. I own a very small percentage of the company. I get a cut of profits. More responsibility. Longer hours. More money? He asked. Yeah, I said. More money. He drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. You're gonna buy me that truck? He asked, turning it into a joke. No, I said. I'm going to max out my retirement and finally get ahead on my loans. But I'll pay for dinner sometimes. And if you and Mom need help, we'll talk. Talk, not assume. He nodded slowly. Fair enough. We pulled up outside my building. He put the car in park but didn't turn it off. You know, he said, staring straight ahead. When I asked if you could come today, part of me was thinking, maybe you'd be able to get me a better deal because you work there. I still think of you as the kid who calls me to ask how to change a tire, you know? Not someone who… He gestured vaguely in the direction of the bank. Run shit. I still don't know how to change a tire without YouTube, I admitted. So don't put too much faith in me. He snorted. Idiot, he said, but fondly. We sat there a second longer. I'm gonna try, he said suddenly. To stop with the broke jokes. To not make you feel like crap when you talk about your job. He grimaced. Can't promise I won't slip. I'm an old dog. Trying is enough, I said. And I'll try not to talk to you like you're my client, okay? Less jargon. More normal. Good, he said. I hate your jargon. We both laughed. It felt like breathing out after holding my breath for years. He left after that. Drove off in his rattly truck, giving me a little two-finger salute through the window like he always does. I watched him go and had this weird double vision moment, seeing him as my dad, the guy who taught me how to ride a bike, and as this older man carrying decades of regret and fear about money on his back. That night, I went to drinks with Luis and the other partners. We clinked glasses, talked about year-end numbers, joked about the sad little cheese board the bank springing for. At one point, someone asked if my family was excited about my promotion. I hesitated. There was a version of the story where I said, "Yeah, they're thrilled," and left it at that. But I'm trying this new thing where I don't lie to make everyone comfortable. My dad found out today, I said. By accident. It was a lot. For both of us. They gave me the sympathetic, non-intrusive looks of people used to complicated families. After a couple of beers, I went home and, like a true millennial, opened Reddit. I'd never posted anything personal before, just lurked, upvoted memes, read other people's drama. But I couldn't stop replaying the scene in the bank over and over, my dad's laugh, his face when he saw the plaque. I kept second-guessing myself. Was I too harsh? Too sensitive? Did I make a big deal out of nothing? So here I am. Typing this out on a Saturday night, while my laundry rattles in the machine and my brain oscillates between, wow, my dad finally said he's proud of me, and, wow, it took me becoming a literal bank partner for him to see me as anything other than broke. I don't even know what I'm asking Reddit for. Validation? Advice on how to not turn into a bitter asshole myself? How to keep this fragile new honesty with my dad from collapsing the next time he's having a bad day and needs a target. Part of me feels petty for caring so much about that one phrase. You still broke after college? It sounds like such a small thing on paper, a dumb dad joke. But when you hear it for 10 years, when it worms its way into how you see yourself, every time you hesitate before buying a coffee, every time you look at your student loan balance, every time you sit in a boardroom surrounded by people who grew up with trust funds, it adds up. It becomes this background soundtrack of, no matter what you do, it's not enough. Standing in that bank office, hearing Luis call me our newest partner, while my dad's joke was still hanging in the air, I felt this bizarre mix of vindication and grief. Like, yes, I did it. I dragged myself up to this place. And also, wow, the person whose approval I'd been chasing all this time had no idea who I'd become. I don't want my success to be about showing him. That's exhausting. I want it to be about me, about not panicking every time my car makes a weird noise, about being able to say yes to dessert without doing mental math. I want to be able to talk about my job without flinching in anticipation of a joke. We actually texted today. Nothing deep. He sent me a photo of the new payment schedule Louise set up, asked me to double check it's not bullshit. I looked it over, gave him the thumbs up. At the end of the text, he wrote, "Proud of you, by the way. Don't let it go to your head." I stared at that line for a solid minute. It felt clumsy and backhanded and perfect in a way that's very him. I wrote back, trying not to. "Thanks for saying that." He replied with a gif of some cartoon character flexing, which I'm choosing to interpret as, "We're okay. I know this isn't some Hallmark ending." He's not going to wake up tomorrow as fully emotionally mature dad. There will be more digs, more defensiveness. I'll probably snap again at some point. But we cracked something open in that parking lot, and for the first time, I didn't immediately stuff my feelings back in the box for fear of upsetting him. "So yeah?" Dad laughed. "You still broke after college?" Then froze when the bank manager called me our newest partner. And for once, instead of swallowing the hurt and laughing along, I let him see the bruise. It turns out he didn't want me broke at all. He just didn't know how to handle the fact that I got out of the hole he's still in. That doesn't excuse the years of jokes, but it makes them make sense. Now I get to decide how much of that weight I keep carrying.